see. Casey Ruff.
DocBlack.
Oh, all right. Let me pump up my volume here. Oh, let's see. Hand gestures. I don't need that. Oh, all right. Let's see. Where's my audio?
Check, check, mic check. You're muted now. I can't hear you.
Oh,
There we go.
there we go. Can you hear me?
Yep, yep, yep.
All right. You're kind of soft. Hold on. Hmm.
Check,
Let's see.
check. Can you hear me okay? My levels are all pretty normal.
Yeah, for some reason, I'm pretty low. Let me go. Oh, I'm maxed out. Why am all right, iPad Pro. Hmm. That's no bueno. Hold on one sec, Casey. I'm going to get some other ear pods, all
Okay,
right?
no worries. No worries. Take your time. Check, check.
Let's see.
Hello, hello. Better?
Yeah. Damn. Damn. All right. There you go. Can you hear me, Casey?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Wow. I can certainly hear you now, buddy.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that.
No, that's my, I don't know what's going on here.
Sorry
Technology.
about
It's
having to hear me is what I mean.
no, no.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but wired headphones always seem to work better for podcasts. I'm not exactly sure why. As long as the microphone doesn't like rub up against like a collar or something, that the audio seems much clearer, and it sounds like you got better audio on your end as well.
Cool.
And
Awesome.
it's kind of in view. I'm a little disappointed it's not more in view, but I'm wearing the awesome shirt you gave me, so thank you.
I see that. No, that's fantastic. I love it. Yeah, now, we're two closet nut seed lovers. So
Yeah.
don't tell anyone. Yours are
Oh man.
cashews, right? And
Yeah, they were great. Thank you very much for the kind and thoughtful gift for
I
sure.
well, I just laugh. And my kryptonite is peanut butter. Just something about
Okay.
it. Like that's just I don't know. It's a
It's
thing.
crazy. Yeah.
But
Does it affect you? Like do you notice your digestion?
no, but I do if I have too much, I'll get eczema inside my ears.
Oh man. Oh, ugh.
And it's just very specific. And if I don't eat it, it goes
Don't have
away.
it.
But then I'm
Wow.
like, oh, that's it can't be. And then of course,
Yeah,
then
yeah, for
scratching your
sure.
face off.
We're stupid humans and we have to be human sometimes. So
Oh,
what do
it's
you do?
crazy. And then particularly even in this sphere too, right? I think we're getting dumber, I think. I don't understand it.
Yeah, good point, man. You did great with your book. Thank you again for sending it. You did an awesome job.
Well, thank you. It was just it's something I've been meaning to do. And I have to say, and I'll say this later, is, just listening to your podcast. I think you have the healthiest kind of sphere in that realm we're in
Uh,
because I mean you bring in people who I mean I was just listening to you the other day and I know that you feel yeah okay I get what you're saying but it's not me but I can understand that so I mean I think you're creating a safe space so
thank you.
yeah
Thank
so
you.
I was inspired by all these people doing great work from a different genre of things. I'm like I gotta get this down because I talk about it with my patients all day
Yeah.
long and
Has
it's
it been
more
a nice resource to like be able to like hand to some of your patients?
it's yes, I mean certainly I'm not going to retire because of my book, and it was an act of love and more of an ability, like an extended business card. Here, this is what I'm talking about. Answer me questions, and I have people come back to me, highlight, well, what did you mean this, or what did you mean that,
That's
and
cool.
it's sad because both of my passions for healthcare are so stupid simple that you have to complicate it to make it palatable for people.
Yeah, it's true.
Eat
It's true.
single ingredient foods, remove interference to your healing.
Yeah.
Okay, move on. There's your
Yeah.
brochure.
Yep.
but it's just too simple for people to put their heads around.
That's a really, really good point. Let's be sure to talk about that for sure. I
Yeah.
love that. Everything else good? Family good?
No, we're blessed. Yeah. It's would have been a couple years since we've connected.
It's been longer than I thought. It was 2023. We did two
Wow.
episodes.
It was awesome. I know we've been coming off that tail end of the pandemic and all
Yep.
that craziness. And
Yep.
my oldest son, he's working, doing great. My daughter just started college. My little guy, he's 14. It's middle
Man,
school. He found a box of my old bodybuilding magazines at my mother's house. So he's kicking my ass at the gym.
that's awesome.
We're hitting the weights hard, and he's got him the encyclopedia of bodybuilding for Christmas, and he's in.
That's
He
awesome.
loves it. So it's great. So we're
That's
having
awesome.
a wonderful time. Yeah,
Very cool. And you're in Rhode Island, correct?
that is correct. Yep.
Cool. So, I mean, you guys have had quite a bit of snow so far, right?
About a few inches. Hold on one sec. Come get the dog, please. Just the other day we had about 3 or 4 inches, which is enough. Last year, I don't think we had more than 6, just because we're
Oh,
kind
wow.
of more coastal. I mean, I'm
Okay.
only about 20 minutes from the coast and
Oh, okay.
right above Long Island, so it really it changes things a lot.
Got
And
it.
even
Okay.
within the state, my offices are 20 miles apart, and I could have 6 inches, and right by the coast, it could be almost nothing.
Well, I
It's
was just
wild.
thinking, I've got a client in Connecticut and she got dumped on a few days ago. They got like 8 inches. So it's surprising that even such a tight area.
It runs right through. There's that band, and it's tough. It's very unpredictable up
Yeah.
here.
Wow. Wow.
You know what? It looks pretty on pictures, but you can keep it. I'm all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, you're good. Awesome, man. Well, if you're good to get started, I'll kick us on here and yeah, we should have a great conversation.
Perfect. I love it.
Okay, great. I just took your introduction either from the website or the book, but it was perfect. It's different than last time, but yeah. So music will play on my end for about 30 seconds. When it's time, I'll fade it down. I'll get you introduced, and we'll just go from there. And then just like before, we'll release this in a few weeks, but I'll send you everything today when I finish it, and you can do whatever you like with it whenever you want.
Awesome. Thanks,
Okay,
Casey.
awesome. You got it. Here we go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to reintroduce to you now. Dr. Christopher S. Black is a returning guest on our show. Be sure to check out his appearances on episode 426 and episode 454 of Boundless Body Radio. Christopher S. Black, DC, also known as DocBlack and the chiropractic Carnivore, is a chiropractor, speaker, and advocate for ancestral health. Doc Black's passion for natural healing began early, fueled by his own life-changing health transformation through chiropractic care. That experience sent him on a lifelong mission to help others achieve alignment in body, mind, and purpose. For nearly 3 decades of clinical practice, Doc Black realized that the healing power unlocked by chiropractic adjustment, which is the removal of neurological interference, had limits when the body was previously poisoned and poorly fueled by the modern diet. This epiphany led him to explore and ultimately adapt the carnivore lifestyle, finding that when structural alignment and pure, nutrient-dense ancestral foods are combined, the body's capacity to heal becomes virtually limitless. He is the author of his recent book, Your Aligned Life, where healing is natural, energy is abundant, and freedom is your foundation. Dr. Chris Black, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you back to Boundless Body Radio.
Hi, Casey. I am so happy to be back. I can't believe this is our 3rd time, but it's been quite a while. So
It's
lots
been
of
our
happening.
third. Yeah, it's been our third. It's going to be our third time, and it's been over 2 years since we've had you on. So it's been great to kind of keep up with you and see what is different with you. You just wrote this amazing book. You were very kind enough to send me an incredible gift. I'm going to count that as your, Christmas gift, a birthday gift recently, where you sent me the book that you just recently finished, which you did an amazing job on. When I'm excited to chat about today. You sent me this awesome shirt, which I love. I wear it all the time. So thank you for that. And you sent me my kryptonite as well. You sent me a small bag of cashews, which I am sad to admit I leveled fairly quickly, as that is my plant food of choice these days when I'm wanting to cheat, and I always pay the price the next day. Thank you very much for the kind gift.
I just wanted you to know you are appreciated, and I do listen. You're my Wednesday afternoon partner for cutting the grass. So I can't believe it's been so long because I feel like I'm connected to you on a weekly basis at least. So
Uh,
um, I've been listening to your podcast faithfully since, and just I've learned so much, and you've inspired me as your other guests have to just continue my journey, certainly, which is, sometimes we need that. We need that continuing education, if you will, for our own goals and priorities. But also, just I've learned so much. I mean, having somebody like Sally Norton on, and even just as recently one about the walking instead of running, and all things that I intuitively had known, but I didn't know how to convey or even understand that I was on the right path until you hear somebody else who's experiencing it or has experienced and is an expert in that. And you're like, oh my God. And it opens up so many other avenues. If I
yeah.
was to put together that book 2 or 3 years ago, it would have been a lot less, I think, inclusive of a lot of those things that I've learned over the last 2 or 3 years by listening to your podcast, as well as the other information that's becoming more and more available to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really nice. And I agree with you. Sometimes there's just different ways that we say things. And even if we have crossover on certain episodes or we listen to one person say something on another podcast and they say it slightly differently, it connects a little bit differently or reminds you something that you had forgotten. And it also kind of reminds me of something that you were saying off air. Like our message really isn't all of that complicated. It's fairly simple what we're trying to tell people. It's just that sometimes people don't understand or don't accept the simplicity, and we almost have to go out of our way to make things a little bit more complicated because the message itself is quite simple.
It's almost too simple, right? Here's, from the dietary standpoint, if anything, single ingredient foods, I've conveyed that my body responds best when it's basically animal based. But yet you can make better choices. Don't have multiple ingredients in your food or the best you can. Two, with chiropractic or natural healthcare in general, remove the interference or the obstruction to healing, whatever that might be. And the body is trained and designed to heal itself. Feed it what it needs, remove an interference to obstruction to healing, and guess what? Things will be better. So, okay, there's my brochure. How can you write a book about it? But people, I think, are conditioned now with so much information that it's just too, it doesn't make sense to them because it is pure and simple.
Yeah.
And then you have to make it harder for them to then realize, geez, I have the choice to make a simple decision, and that can have a huge impact later in life. And it's like they come back after just eliminating something from their diet and they're like, holy cow, I feel so much better because I'm not eating that one thing, not going carnivore, not doing anything, not going to the gym 10 days a week, but I went for a walk and I removed X from my diet and I feel so much better. Great, let's move forward. Let's see how we can improve upon that.
I love that.
It's significant.
Yeah, it is, and simple. And more than anything, I also love the fact that I'm there with you, cutting your grass on Wednesdays, and I've never once broken a sweat, my friend. I feel like I'm hardly working at all, so that's
Incredible.
nice. Yeah, that's really nice. I love that. Well, I do want to talk about the book and some of the concepts you write about. You did a great job keeping things very simple. And, the chapters are really short, which I really appreciate, and kind of broken down in a way that's easy to digest, pun intended. Before we get to the book and your journey in writing the book, tell us about your own health journey. It's been a while since we've had you on, and you have an interesting, kind of direction that your life took, not necessarily thinking you were going to get into chiropractic early in your career. So tell us a little bit about your experience and how you eventually got into chiropractic care.
Awesome. It's been a journey. When I was about 16 or in high school, you're toying around ideas, and I really thought I wanted to be an engineer or an architect, and I really love that. And you set up classes to do so, and you're in this trajectory of those things, and I really still enjoy designing and building things. But about 16 or 17, my folks had ended up going to a chiropractor. He had told them the message because my father had suffered from chronic pain. So he said, hey, you have a son, he's active, weightlifting and karate and martial arts. Why don't you get him checked? So I went in, and he actually spoke to me as casual as I try to speak to my people, not on that highbrow, authoritative position. Told me what chiropractic was, how it could relate to my spine, analyzed my x-rays and made some corrections. And I was like, holy cow, this makes so much sense to me. I think I could do this. And I think I would like to do that. But as an aside, growing up, I was really not healthy. I had a lot of chronic infections, chronic bacteria, strep. So my uncle was a pharmaceutical sales rep. So we always had a closet filled with the newest and greatest antibiotics. So if I had a sniffle, boop, here comes an antibiotic. But I was always sick. I just never felt well. And then years later, once I started to get chiropractic, I had never even been sick since. So it's kind of like, wow. So, okay. So not only did I feel great, but my immune system, my body started to heal itself. So I haven't been to a medical doctor since I was 16. I mean, I'll go to the dentist or the eye doctor, things like that, but to seek care because I feel like I'm sick or ill, I just don't feel that need. And it's only magnified since I've been cleaning up what I'm consuming as a diet for sure. So I said, I want to be a chiropractor. So I went to the local college, got my undergrad credits, and then I went right off to chiropractic school. I graduated in 1996, so long ago, at 24 years old. And I'd always been a follower of the tradition of chiropractic. So I think I'd mentioned to you before that I've had the pleasure of actually having dinner with a chiropractor who got arrested for practicing chiropractic. And it's crazy to think that in my lifetime that I've had that experience, but chiropractic wasn't fully legal to practice in all 50 states until I think 1972, which is bizarre. Guys were being arrested for helping other people. So I just followed that tradition. And then I've had the honor of taking care of some old timers because they seek me out and having a great conversation with one. His dad was a chiropractor in 1914, couldn't come back to Rhode Island to practice, so he had to practice somewhere else because it was still illegal. Then he ended up having a home office here at home, and this young fella's job was to, believe it or not, change the ashtrays in the office because at the time everybody smoked and they had them. But he recalled hearing stories of patients coming in, being carried in, like last resort patients told there was no other alternative, go home and die. He was seeing these miraculous healings under chiropractic care. People were just responding. So then he took over his father's practice and he'd practiced for 40 or 50 years. And he was lamenting. He says, they just, I don't know. He says, I don't know if people don't get it anymore. He says, but over the years, people just weren't responding to the care that he thought he was still providing to these people. And we were talking, and it brought me back to something that I had learned in school. I don't think we're, as a species, as healthy as we were in the 50s, 40s, particularly in the turn of the century, because of other things. So we kind of, over coffee and a number of conversations, said, well, it's kind of like making cement. If you have all the right ingredients, but the ratios are off, you're still going to have cement, but it's not going to be great cement. So we're providing a modality of healing, or we're removing an obstruction to healing when we feel that's nerve pressure or nerve interference from a chiropractic standpoint. You could be doing it with personal training or exercise or something, but if that vessel that we're trying to model is not appropriate with its ingredients, you can only make it as good as it can be. So Chris Black can only be as good as Chris Black can be if what I'm allowing my body to utilize to reproduce cells, have energy, and recreate itself to fuel my innate healing mechanisms. So I was like, holy cow, that makes a lot of sense. So now, geez, just recently, it's not the cholesterol, it's the inflammation, right? So all the things that we innately kind of figured out is now becoming truth because we're less healthy as a species. So the modalities we're given are becoming less effective. So we're required to use more advanced radical things. Like, the body isn't an adult diabetic because it has a lack of metformin in its life. And I'm grateful that medicine is there, because when we do enough damage to our system and our body hits that limitation of matter, meaning it just can't do anymore, there are interventions to help people with that, but they stop there. They don't say, well, okay, you are now an adult diabetic. What can we do to maybe reverse that, improve that, make this more effective? So they've lost sight with that. So that has opened my up, and even conversations in the office saying, hey, you're getting these adjustments. It's not holding. You're doing some good stuff. You're inflamed. What's going on? Now that I have a better understanding of it personally, it's just helped me help my people. And it's opened up a different thing. So that was long, but does that make sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I just read an article yesterday that came from a fairly mainstream source that was saying that C-reactive protein is a better marker to measure than LDL cholesterol when it comes to heart attacks. It's like, oh, that's a step. Okay,
right.
At least we're looking in the right place. I didn't agree with everything that was in the article, but it was a great step from the old message.
It was an acknowledgement that the body can be inflamed, right? Yeah. Because I mean, if you said that to somebody 10 years ago, they'd be like, "What? Did you sprain an ankle?" No. What do you mean? So there's an acknowledgement that the body's response to something, they're not going to acknowledge it. It's seed oils and sugars and stuff like that because they're not going to go there. but at least there's something that they're saying, well, something's inflamed. Okay. So now people might not be as scared of the cholesterol. So then they'll be open now for the conversations that we have on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's
Okay.
coming. And I think you can't hide our ancestral history. I just think it's you just can't do it. They're trying and they have tried, but I just think they can't because it's actual the truth. People
Yeah.
respond when they eat better foods.
Yep. Good point.
And
No, I love that. I love that. I want to go back to your kind of traditional chiropractic training. For most people and what they think chiropractic care is,
sure.
compare that to what you actually learn as a chiropractor and the different things that you are able to help people with. Because again, I think most morons like myself would just think, okay, he's a chiropractor, he's adjusting the spine, they help with back pain, and that's kind of about it. And talking with you over the years and learning from you, it's so much more than that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And sadly, with most of our professions, even if I said, I see the work that you put in with your clients in the self-study you do to give your clients the best. So if I said, oh, I'm going on a podcast with a personal trainer, they're going to just think the guy at Planet Fitness, right? They don't know the depth of your. Now, so my profession, like yours and other professions, kind of get stereotyped into what people think. So actually, chiropractic was started in 1895, and the first patient, Harvey Lillard, had no pain. He was deaf. He had strained himself. He went deaf. D.D. Palmer at the time was a magnetic healer in Davenport, Iowa, thought he could help him with magnetic healing. That didn't work. Through his analysis, the story goes, he found a lump on Harvey's back, pushed it back into place very probably not as finessefully as we hope to do today, and his hearing restored. So it was like, holy cow, I found the cure for deafness, right? So he thought he had something. So he advertised, hey, I found the cure for deafness, and people from the tri-state area came deaf to receive D.D. Palmer's care. And guess what? Probably most of them left still deaf because it wasn't an A plus B equals a C relationship. But what he had noticed is some people with maybe a heart condition responded, or somebody with a sugar condition or an ailment or a back pain or neck pain. So whatever was connected. And this was a period of time when medicine was at blood theory. It was people were being leeched or blood because they thought it was bad blood in the body. So D.D. Palmer was really one of the first to say, hey, this is a neurological connection. And then that made sense. So the spine, in essence, became almost like a circuit breaker. So if there's a dysfunction or nerve pressure, we call it a subluxation in that chain of bones, whatever is connected to that isn't going to work as well as it should be. And we think, oh, we dumb it down to the point of like you step on a garden hose and whatever's connected to it is dumb and dying and whatever. But it's much more subtle than that, because you could have a problem or nerve pressure in your spine, just like a cavity or a tooth, for years or decades until there's enough breakdown of tissue, you're not going to express pain. So sadly, a lot of times people will seek chiropractic care for often a last resort because they've tried everything else and it's not working for them, or B, for the neck pains, headaches, and things like that, which we are very, very effective in managing. But yet they miss that window of either it be a optimization of health or wellness or prevention. And then sometimes we see patients who are desperate and have no other avenues to go, and we can help them whether or not it will cure X, Y, or Z. And certainly our point isn't to cure somebody. It's to remove that, again, interference or obstruction to healing that we feel occurs in the spine and nervous system so that their body can better express itself in whatever that might be. Sadly, it doesn't happen with everybody, but we'll see children with chronic ear infections. One of my first things that got me into the ketogenic lifestyle was that patient or that family that had their daughter with severe seizure disorder. I mean, her life was completely ruined. So not only did they try to monitor or maintain her seizures, she was under every specialist in Boston or whatever. They were using the ketogenic diet, and that's what clicked for me. It brought me back to some of the stuff I learned back in the early 90s, Atkins stuff. And then they wanted to incorporate chiropractic to bring the tone of her nervous system down. So she helped me probably as much as I helped her. But so we see all kinds of cases. I just had a 90-year-old guy who came in because he wants to, he comes in routinely once a month, but he's coming in more often because he has to dance at his granddaughter's wedding in January. So he wants to be in shape for that. No pain, but the guy's 93. Yeah, he's going to have some pain. And then I had another woman just yesterday. She blew her back out Christmas morning, moving Christmas presents, and she crawled in yesterday. So we see that gamut, but chiropractic has so much more to offer. Just like our approach to diet has so much more to offer than losing weight, right? People go on keto to lose weight. No, your life is going to change. And I feel if you're under chiropractic care, your life is going to change as well.
Love that.
Exercise, get out there and move. Your life is going to change. It takes effort to maintain and achieve or restore health.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Going back to your personal story and that conversation you had where you're realizing, somebody who's been doing this a very, very long time was noticing that people aren't healing as much as possible. You gave the cement analogy, and maybe our ingredients are not the same, what we're dealing with in our day-to-day lives, the stress, the electronics you mentioned, like our diet being so much poorer. From that moment on, how long did it take you to arrive at some of the conclusions that you eventually did about things like the low carbohydrate diet, ketogenic diets, carnivore diets? Because that is very much not mainstream. Now you're a chiropractor, so you're used to kind of bucking up against the mainstream,
Sure.
which we love you guys for. But yeah, how long did it kind of take you to realize that your coworker, your colleague was correct and there was something wrong, but then the answer was what you conclude today, which is that a carnivore diet is kind of the place to land?
Yeah, I mean, I think it became a study of one per se, and I really think that it was that realization that, I myself, like a Ken Berry story, right? I'm helping other people, but my health is deteriorating. You look at some of the pictures, and I'm like, wow, I'm not as healthy as I should be. And talking with him, I'm like, yeah, you're right. I get it. I don't think we're healthy. I'm not as healthy as I think I should be. And then bringing that family into me who ketogenic diet, like that sparked my interest. And then that brought me back to some conversations in school, because back in the early 90s, coming out of the bodybuilding era, everybody was carbo loading. So that was my reference point to nutrition. And then I had this professor in chiropractic school who was trying to reverse his type 2 diabetes by just eating bacon and eggs. I couldn't even put my head around that. I thought this guy was a kook, right? So I passed the class, whatever, but it always was like this guy was even crazier about health than I could even digest. And I was off the rails, right? So then that's a ketogenic. So then I put those pieces together. Thankfully, one of the good things about the web is we were able to kind of have a broader based research. I was like, oh, that's what that guy was trying to talk about, but he wasn't doing a good job because he didn't have the knowledge or the resources. Okay, so then as a study of one, I said, let me try it, because it was counterculture at the time. If we're going back 10 years now, doing keto was like, oh my, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. Like, I'm like, yeah, bring it on. Let's try it. So I like the counterculture stuff anyway. And I tried it and I was like, oh my God, I feel great. And people wouldn't see you in 6 months and they'd be like, you look great, but are you dying of cancer? Like, you look totally different. So then that was sparking conversations. People are like, Doc, what are you doing? Because they were seeing the changes in me and my energy and all of that. And then I started to understand it more. And then that's really kind of when you think about like even your journey into podcast, that whole, I was doing it, we were probably all doing it before the pandemic. And then the pandemic came and then just, bleh, everybody's got information. So there's informational overload. So then I was like, I feel comfortable about sharing this with some of my patients. And then, here we go. So I really think the journey and the understanding was global, but yet it didn't start until I started to change myself. And then the biggest message or the biggest thing I could sell people is they see the change in me and they're like, oh my, how old are you? We're talking, oh, I'm 53 now. And they're like, oh my God, right. So they see my fitness journey because I've changed, I take care of some of the same people for 25 years. So they've grown with me. I'm like, oh my God, you look so much better. What? So it's helped me, and then I'm able to help them. So that has then given me the confidence to get together and say, I got to put some of these thoughts on paper, because in a 5-minute, 10-minute conversation with a patient, what are you going to do? So I love texting patients. I'll be like, I'll send them your episode on Sally about, whatever it might be. So I'm constantly texting. I'm like, I could probably condense this into one thing that I can say, here, read this, take it home, share it. If you don't like it, ask me about it. Let's talk about it. And that was one of the genesises of saying, writing a book. And I've always wanted to write a book, but your the carnivore teacher inspired me. I'm like, son of a gun, that guy's out there doing a great job. He wrote a book. I have patients to hand my book to. Why don't I write a book? And that was he really kicked me in the butt to consolidate a lot of the thoughts that I had. And I appreciate you saying it was like a conversational journey, because I didn't want it to be a heady text. I wanted it to be, you can read a paragraph here or there, or just, it's light. It's like a conversation between you and me. And that's what I wanted it for my patients or whoever might find value in.
Well, it definitely will be very valuable, and it fits that mold to where it is simple. You go into a lot of detail on stuff, but it's not overly aggressive. It's one that I would feel very confident sharing with most people around, even on the street, if they'd never heard of a carnivore diet. It's a great introduction. It's a great introduction to your work as well. I love the title. Obviously, that fits perfectly with what you do. And what were some of the main overarching messages that you wanted to share in your book?
Well, I think that, the chiropractic placement in the book could be replaced by personal training. If you took out personal training and then added the kind of the structure of the diet into that, a personal training client will improve by eating the carnivore diet. So I wanted it to be kind of universal, but yet share that message of what chiropractic originally was intended for and kind of how it can be balanced into a life other than just always seeking treatment of disease, right? I think life and healthcare should be a lot more than just, oh, I have an ailment, let me try to chase a solution. Well, how do I prevent even being sick? That's the ultimate goal. So I kind of putting these things together was in kind of laying it out, but I wanted people to be educated in why I say kind of some of the things I do, right? If we passively say, well, seed oils are bad for you, well, why? Well, kind of here's a little bit of a history, but I'm not going to give you, I don't know that much about it. I get a broad scope of it. But now somebody may take that book and go, oh, that's what he was talking about. Let me do a search on it. And then they stumble across you and listen to Sally Norton and like, wow, okay, gee, now I get what he's getting. So I wanted it to be kind of universal. And I understand that I wrote it primarily for my people because some people don't think they need chiropractic or care about it. But I hope somebody will be like, oh, I didn't know that's what chiropractic was. My cousin's suffering from something. Maybe I'll give her the book or tell her to go see a chiropractor. So, and I've said, I think this, one of the BJ Palmer was Dee Dee Palmer's son. He had said, you never know how far reaching something you may think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow, right? So we're planting a seed, you're planting a seed, and somebody may resonate with my message and go, oh, I never thought of it that way. Well, then our job is done.
Yeah.
And I think that's the my draw to your podcast is you have people I just listened to the Ruck one or so I'm learning. I may not be fully in agreement with everything, but I may intrinsically know, what, I think they're right, but boy, they articulated it so I can understand it. And then if a patient comes in and says something that I would have maybe dismissed as being crazy, like, you don't know it. Oh, I get where you're coming from. Well, let's think it out, right? So now I have more of a knowledge. So you have a platform that you've brought in so many different people, and it's not just strictly dogmatic. Eat meat, you're going to die. The Venus flytrap is going to bite your head off and you're dead, because not everybody needs to do that. And I think, yes, if you're fighting a condition that is very serious and you're trying to clean your body out, you have to put the emphasis, the focus in the commitment, laser focus, eliminate everything, give it 90 days. You've been doing bad stuff for 50, give it 90 days, see what happens. And then if it's working, continue with it, or remodify and balance it for that, and I think there's value in that. So it's that fine line, even with what I do, is from being caring, loving, and encouraging and dogmatic. And I think we can be dangerous in either realm.
Agree. Yeah, well said. I really love that. It's certainly not a book about history. I did want to ask you about the history of where we got to as far as food. I'm going to save that for a second. I want to ask you, you do write about this in the book, which I found fascinating. I don't know how we even really got down this road, but how did chiropractic care turn this thing that seemed to be very promising, was helping people with all kinds of different ailments, to what you were then telling us that within our own lifetimes, it was illegal in many states. It wasn't that long ago that it was even approved in certain states. What happened in that world that it got so bastardized, or people thought of chiropractors as quacks?
Can you imagine a thing called ego and money? I know it's shocking.
Shocking.
I mean, it is shocking, but you got to remember that along with the food industry, some of the most powerful players in the universe acquired the food industrial complex. Now, at that time, medicine was going through a transition. They were transitioning from the blood theory into the germ theory, et cetera. So that it was all about control. So when you started to have the Mayo Clinic and a lot of these staff was not getting people well because some of the medical treatments that were prescribed were pretty harsh. Arson. I mean, they were doing things out of relatively probably good intent, but also a sick society is a populace of money, or you're not making money by curing somebody. So people were failing or not getting the results they were needing during that period of time. They were stumbling across this relatively uneducated person. When you thought about it, you could go to be a chiropractor in like 6 months. It wasn't as formal of an education as it was. Bone setters or moving the bones, spinal manipulators have been around in every culture. But this guy was then saying, hey, I can get you better. And guess what? He was helping an awful lot of people. I mean, so people were traveling and they were bypassing medicine. So money, greed, and ego came into place, and the American Medical Association had really started to even educate its physicians in school. You can't associate with chiropractors. It was part of their program. You can't refer to chiropractors. So there was this constant struggle. Instead of saying, hey, you know what, they may not be right for everything, just like they took a logical look at themselves. We're not right for everything, but let's work together to make that individual better. There's no money in that. So they had really had this all-out campaign to contain and destroy chiropractic because it was a groundswell. It was growing, and finally, the chiropractors all got together and finally sued the AMA and had put a cease and desist on this. But there had been discrimination, if you will, in that realm, and it's similar to what's going on in naturopathy right now too. Because I think in Rhode Island, naturopaths aren't legally licensed here in our state. So it comes down to the fact of, I think, money, ego, and control, sadly. And you're seeing it in food care right now. We're controlling. Look at how we got to sugar was bought out to replace fat and et cetera. So it's the same story. It happens in healthcare. It's happening right now, sadly. And I think a lot of things, if you eliminate XYZ, whatever the XYZ foundation is, if you find the cure for it or a catalyst of increased volume and you reduce that, then their nonprofit, which is very profitable to some people, ceases to exist. Nobody wants that. So, and it's sad, but it has put up a lot of stereotypes. I'll have patients come in, oh, I was told never to come and see you. Oh, by whom? Well, by my aunt's cousin's sister says you'll cause me to have a stroke or something. Well, could anything happen? Absolutely. So I said, you want to talk about safety? I said, let's compare where it really matters, and that's in financials. So if we talk malpractice, a dentist malpractice might be $8,000 to $10,000, and OBGYN's malpractice could be $200,000 to $300,000 a year. A surgeon's is somewhere in the middle there, right? My malpractice is $795 a year. So if we were hurting people on a routine basis as a profession, guess what? We'd probably be paying more. I mean, that's just the facts. Can horrible things happen to good people because of a shit luck? Yeah, of course, with anything. You could drop a plate on your head so we've been demonized in the media, and it'll come in cycles. It'll be like, oh, this is happening, and a chiropractor. Okay, that's fine. What is the story? What is the behind the scenes story to that? And if we talk, I mean, I think, what is it? Medicine has one of the highest rates of, death, because of neglect. I mean, not even trying to do the wrong thing, trying to do the right thing. It kills more people than not. So, okay, I'm not saying everybody's bad, but let's just say what's best for that patient. And a lot of times it's abstinence from something. You don't need, one of the other t-shirts that I've made is, I take this drug because of the effects of this drug to this drug. It's like a 3-paragraph thing because one side effect has to be treated. At what point can we maybe pause on everything? 90 days, let's see what happens. And, and then see if we can peel back some of that stuff.
Wow.
An example of this, I had a great patient, not to go off tangent, but a friend of ours, he's got their stepdad living with him. He's 86. He's an adult diabetic, insulin dependent, because he's made horrible life decisions. But through a ketogenic type lifestyle that he's not even aware he's eating, like they just feed him, he's able to maintain, with some pharmaceutical management, a blood sugar of about 130 to 170 on a routine basis. He was sick. He went to the walk-in because healthcare is so stressed. It's so wrong right now. We don't have general practitioners who know you. So we don't have relationships with our family doctor who can say, no, Ed, this is not right for you. Because you're a diabetic, we need to do this. They gave him the standard script. Oh, take some prednisone because you have this. That put him into ketoacidosis. So he ended up having to go to the hospital because he was very, very ill. And he was under 24 hours, around the clock care. They couldn't keep his blood sugar under 375 because what do they feed them? Mashed potatoes, toast, could care less. That had no, and the family was like, can we have a modified diet? That has nothing to do with it. So finally, he was well enough to go home, and they got him right back, and his blood sugars are better. And of course, guess what? He's healing better because he's not inflamed and stressed and sick. So why can't we just work together and be open to other things? But all of us get stuck in that one model, and we can all learn from each other.
Mm.
But ego, money, and control have to get rid of it.
Fascinating and unfortunate history. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, like we said earlier, it's not, your book is not just about the history, but you also do mention the history of our food as well. Can you tell us some of the key events that have happened over the last 100 years, 200 years, as far back as you want to go, that lead us to where we are today, where, somewhere around 85 to 90% of most Americans are not metabolically healthy anymore?
I mean, I think it definitely, again, going back to that same thing, but it's fascinating to see how I think some of it probably was, and one of your guests had said too, is because that overpopulation of small areas, there needed to be some way to feed all these people. And Stephen Ranella, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he's a great author, and The Meat Eater.
Yeah.
He had just written in his newest book called The Mountain Men, and he had almost a half a chapter on how the mountain men would sustain themselves by just eating meat on that side and hunting and all that stuff. But then they were so healthy that there was a trend to take the sicker of the people in the industrial area and move them out to eat only meat, and they became healthy. So we have seen that, and it goes back probably even before that. I think some of it was consolidation of food. Then it was, the 7-day Adventist whole thing that talks about how they wanted, again, control. And then we wanted to manipulate the people. So I think it's been a combination of probably some good intent to feed our people because of regionalization as well as that. Probably, you can't ship without pre-refrigeration meat. So they had to do things to do that. And then you see that opportunity. Then you start to see profit. Then you see subsidies and all of that. So look at those pictures, and you've seen them, and they're staggering. Every time I see them, people in the 60s and 50s, nobody had excess body weight. They all looked great. All bodies that most of us would die for right now, and they just came natural. Nobody worked out. Nobody went to the gym. It was crazy. And even in like fitness, the healthiest people on the planet ate steak and eggs. Going through this journey with my youngest son, like I was telling you, wants to be a bodybuilder at 14 because he found all my old bodybuilding magazines at home. These guys ate steak, eggs, and worked out. And that's it. They sat in the sun. They got sunlight. So I think all those things that have been proven to be what we ancestrally do, being in the sun, not sitting on electronic devices, moving, touching the ground with the ground, just stuff that we took advantage for, even in the 50s and 60s, kids played in the dirt. You went out in the sun, nobody worried about it. Now we're scared to death. If you send your child out with no shirt on in the sun without sunscreen, they're going to call DCOF on you. But yet we don't use that at home because we realize sun is as important of a nutrient as a hamburger. Without it, again, you're not making strong cement. So you're not getting that. So I think it's a number of things. And again, I think it's about, sadly, when they realize they can monetize it and profit from it, then it becomes a problem. Then it creates a secondary industry. Like I say, God forbid anybody in my family gets cancer, any of those other things. But those industries, if there's a cure or a reason of A plus B equals C, and you eliminate one of those, that industry collapses, and there are a lot of funds and jobs. And again, I don't want to take anybody's job away, but people become passionate and hang on to their things. Same thing with a diagnosis. And I see this too. If you were diagnosed as something, very often people will self-sabotage themselves going through a corrective portion because you've lost that almost identity. So people hold on to things. And I find that very sad. They need something to hold on to. And they will self-sabotage themselves because they're losing that thing they can commiserate on. I say, what can we do to transform that to help other people in a similar situation? That is more empowering than holding on to your victimhood. So it breeds so many things. And I think we're conditioned, gosh, every other TV commercial is feeling bad, take this. Feeling sad, do this. You want to pick up your grandkids, you need to take this medication. And it's like, no, maybe you should have been doing some kettlebells or walking or not eating the crap for 30 years ahead of you, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned those pictures from the 60s and 70s, and I've got a Formula One book that's about 6 inches from my head right now. And you
good you
see
mentioned that.
crowds
Yeah.
of people, and they're all super lean and fit. Now, they're also watching horribly dangerous car crashes behind hay bales. And so they probably all died when the car crashed into them anyway. But until they did, at least according to this picture, they look like they're incredible shape. And yeah,
But
shirts off and in the sun.
in cultures that eat wine at lunch, breads, pastas, meat that's fresh. So it's not, yes, I contend for us in our world today, the best thing you can do is eat a carnivorous diet. But I also think for some and for most, appropriately prepared single ingredient foods will be better for you. And from experience, we Christmas tradition, we made sugar cookies, you know, with the family, whatever. And I'm making it, but I'm like, there is absolutely zero. These are I am making a negative nutrient food here. Like there is nothing nutritious about this. It's just it just hit me like this is so bad. And some people eat it 3 times a day or even more. So then I was craving because you and I we had those closet cravings. You cashews, I have peanut butter, whatever. She made some oatmeal cookies. So she made them with 2 ingredients, 1/3 of the sugar. And you know what? I had them, I enjoyed them, but because they didn't have an ingredient list this long with things I couldn't pronounce, it hit me, but it did not hit me the way it would have if we grabbed the Oreos. And I know by experience, should I do that every day? No. Am I going to beat myself up because over the holidays I had some homemade oatmeal cookies? Nah, I think I'll live.
I think you'll.
But if though, and I tell my patients, if we're fighting something, God forbid, we're chasing a cancer or a metabolic disease, seizures, or some, you have to commit and you have to be disciplined and try because I think, particularly like a 50-year-old, we're so damaged spinally, emotionally, chemically, metabolically that 90 days, a year, probably isn't going to change. And, you know, I've told people, and you've used this term too, I, like you, have to be an abstainer. I can't just say I'm going to do a little. And I don't think most people can, but I don't think most people are mature enough to admit that they can't because we all think I could do it. But if you're sick, I think that stress, the cortisol, it becomes a sequelae that it magnifies it, and it magnifies that craving and that urge. So we have to really learn to know how our bodies work, because 99% of the people outside our doors don't even know what normal feels like. I mean, you've been brought up in a medical bubble, eating crap. I mean, you know, just even our lifetime, they discourage women to say, you know, you don't need to breastfeed. We can use this soy lacing crap. So you're born almost out of the womb in this medical thing. So at 40, now it's even younger, 30, we're seeing a degradation of health. And you say, well, you're not normal. Well, I don't even know what normal feels like anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm crying now with patients that are dealing with loved ones who have cognitive dementia, Alzheimer's on a routine basis, not as patients, but a loved one who has them. 30 years ago, I never saw somebody with, you know, a mom and aunt or spouse who had dementia, maybe, you know, the 90-year-old lady. I mean, I just had a woman, this was her first Christmas. He's 60 years old, that's in a nursing home, and he didn't remember what Christmas, you know, at 60. Like it's insane. And it's devastating her family, their family. It's not supposed to happen that way. And it's happening more and more. So we are a sick society. And I think it's, again, an entire combination of things.
Wow. Well, I really like how you wrote about it in the book because you talk about the things that are inherently good about a carnivore diet that are included in a carnivore diet. These are the nutrients you need. This is where you find them. It's all in meat. And you also write on the other end, like you mentioned about the sugar cookie, the things that just really have no value or are of a negative value. You mentioned three in particular, but can you talk about, the kind of, I don't know if you even want to call them food, but the three things you really kind of focus on as far as this is, what is ailing us in our current diet. And here are the things that are healthy about a carnivore diet that are the alternative to that.
Sure. I mean, I think number one is, I think it's sometimes it's the fear of things. We're fearful of fat. And I think that if we get rid of that fear and actually consume more of it, the desires or the needs for those chemical things are less. I think my number one fear right now is seed oil, soy, etc. But it's in so many things. You have to almost have a master class with your patients or family and say, this is how you read an ingredient because you think you're eating something good. And actually, you're better off having that Oreo almost than this salad dressing or this mayonnaise. I mean, it's just so seed oils, because of what we're saying as far as the inflammation and this the whole body reactive thing, I think is one of the biggest things. That I think the ultra processed stuff, I mean, certainly going back to the cookie example, right? You have a two single ingredient food. Is it the best choice for you? No, but it's a lot better for you than something that's laden with Crisco and all that other stuff. It's butter, right? So I think it's that ultra processed stuff. And then I just think that's the number one thing of not being fearful of what the universe, God, whoever put in front of us to eat, right? Eat the meat, eat the berry, and I still contend that our primal ancestors around the fall would gorge themselves on honey and berries and fruits that were ripe. And you talk about, that window of time at home when you get that natural ripe tomato and it's the best thing for you. And you're going to eat until you can't eat anymore to fatten a little bit for that period of starvation or whatever. So I think there are cycles of things, but that also goes back to your definition of hypercarnivore, 70%, right? So there's that wiggle room. So I think we have to get out of our own fears of actually having things, but that's causing us to be reprogrammed. Because even today, they're still trying to demonize meat, and you'd rather have this burger. Well, nobody's eating this crap because it tastes like crap and it's filled with so many poisons. But yet, what is that doing us to the inside? So I think it's eating more of the good things, trying to avoid the toxic things. And it's almost, that list is almost too long to just say it's the top three things. Now, everybody in my house now knows that spinach will kill you. Like it's just the oxalates and all that. It's funny because they all joke. And again, if there's a piece of spinach in something, I'm not going to freak out, but let's not do that. And those were things that 10 years ago, I would have been like, well, of course we have to have that. It's greens, it's fine as keto. So I think that it's that realization. And if we were talking about that same question on messaging to people, your clients, my patients, how do we do it in a way that doesn't contradict their own personal beliefs so strongly that they revolt to what you're saying? And I think that's the hardest thing for me. I know because I get riled up. I mean, I talk a mile a minute when I'm excited and I get extremely passionate and I can almost steamroll over people, not realizing that what I'm saying to them hurts them so badly because it questions their core beliefs that they turn me off. And you have to almost love them with kindness. Ask them, where are you? How's that working for you? Have you tried this? When you want to grow with me, you want to give it a try. So I think I got off tangent a little bit, but I think it's how to convey a message of where they are, where they should be. And here are some of the things, seed oils, you might, hey, try doing some sour cream with some ranch powder dressing in it, then the ranch crap. See how that works for you. Or maybe, eat those egg yolks and have a little extra butter on it to see if you're fuller. So you don't need that. Try it. Give me one meal. You don't skip breakfast tonight. Go ahead, try it. And doing that and getting them to do that. And I also think we need to eat less regularly because I think that and again, I try to get them all back to the blood spike. It's all about insulin and, so you can get heady, but I think a lot of the times we all come at it too passionately and we turn off the person who might not be ready to hear that yet.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think a lot of people are guilty of that, especially early in their journey when they found something so amazing and they do want to go out and proselytize about it, but people aren't ready for that. So I like the way you set it up in your book, and I don't hear many people talking about it the way that you did And I thought it was so fitting because it so much relates to what you're doing, helping people with their nervous system and their nerves. But that
Absolutely.
fear of fat and how that relates to our nervous system and our hormones, it goes so well along with what you said earlier in this conversation that, like, yeah, you could choose a diet to lose weight, but we're not talking about weight loss here. Like, this is so much more critical than that. And you do a
Uh,
great job writing about that.
and going back to that conversation we just had about the Alzheimer's or the cognitive delays, well, the brain is made out of what? Cholesterol and fat. So if you looked at probably in my life, I'm 53. I take no medications. Don't even ask people ask me, what about your cholesterol? I said, I don't even care. Like I feel confident enough to like, I don't even care what it is. Honestly, I don't. I feel good. I look good. My skin's great. I feel I'm okay. But if you look at 30 years ago, the people who were on statin drugs were probably that 60 or 70-year-old, right? Grandpa. Now, if you're 40 years old and you're not on a statin drug or high blood sugar, you're the freak. So my children, I've actually not trained them, but they've heard me say, Dad, look at that guy. He's got man boobs, right? They can point out the men who are in their 40s or 50s who are on statin drugs from afar. They got that shape. They just look like they don't metabolize well. They're fat in certain places. But think about it. Okay, we're chasing a number, but we're stripping the body's pushing your cholesterol levels up because it needs it. It wants it. Cell membranes, the brain, the myelin sheath, or the sheath that actually conducts nervous electricity from the spine. We need these things. And we've stripped them away from our diet. We're giving people medications that prevent the proper metabolic pathways that utilize these things, and we're surprised that we're becoming more unhealthy. Combined that, and I contend the cellular phone industry is, if we ask the right question, really detrimental to our health. I mean, the studies on 5G, again, I don't want to get tin hat foil on you, but you can't tell me that this thing that can connect to a cell tower, putting it in my shirt or in my front pocket, is conducive to my overall health. I just can't. I remember when my family got its first microwave in whatever 80s, and I had to be not even in the same room as that thing. Like, don't stare at the microwave. And that thing was only heating up water, never mind sending a signal to a satellite somewhere. So I think there are so many things that are stacked against us. We need to make the choices that we can individually control that will give us a better chance to survive this journey we're on, right? Because you can't control cell phones. I can't control Wi-Fi. I necessarily can't control what's in, my tap water. I can make improvements on any of those things. I can shut them off at night. I can filter them. I can try to ground. I can make better individual choices. But the deck is kind of stacked against us a little bit. Not to be gloomy, but we have to just be a study of one and learn and encourage and I think be okay to realize that, okay, maybe that wasn't working out for me, because it wasn't the right thought at the time. So
Yeah, good point. Well, that's a perfect segue to kind of how you conclude your book. You talk quite a bit about mindset. And one of the things you keep coming back to, which I really love, is like, start today. How do you help your people get started on some of this stuff when they are feeling maybe a little bit like what you're describing? Like, yeah, I don't know if I could control mold in my house. I don't know if I can move to a new house if I had mold. Like, there are cell phone towers all over the place. I can kill my Wi-Fi, but I'm looking literally out the window. I could throw a stone at 3 other houses. They'll have their Wi-Fi on. Like, you know what I mean? So how do you help people understand that there's a lot out of your control? There's a few things in your control and you can start today.
yeah, and you know what, and it comes down to even like that patient who comes into the office and it seems when their back is against the wall or it's January 1st, they want to do everything. They want to go from 0 to 100. And I was reflecting on this with one of your last podcasts that I listened to. It's like the barefoot movement thing, right? Yes, educated. We are designed not to, run around with, hookahs on. But if you take a 50-year-old who hears that podcast and says, man, I'm going barefoot, guess what you're going to do? Destroy yourself. Because at 3 months before you even learn to weight bear on your own legs, you had shoes on. So your feet have no idea, again, what normal is. So I think we need to pace ourselves. We need to learn to embrace kind of where we're at, not approve it, but say, okay, here's where I am. So yes, I should walk 30 minutes a day, right? You're a huge advocate of walking. I know you and your wife hike all the time. But if you take somebody who's done nothing and they're 50 and get them out there, they're going to hurt themselves. They say, you know what? Every hour, I want you to get up from your chair and walk for 5 minutes. So you're going to get an hour in, but you're not going to get an hour in 1 hour. You're going to build up to it. Then you're going to go 10 minutes. And then you're going to go 15 or 20. Then you're going to hold life habit and all these things. So you have to find what works for you. And I think you have to slowly journal, I think is important. I think, measuring your progress. I think learning as much as you can about all topics. I think we become kind of benign. I'm only going to focus on my diet. Great. You should also learn about what the consequences of not having sunlight or, So I think we have to be open to it. And I think the internet and podcasting realm and like your channel, you have so many different experiences for people to understand. At least they go, wow, so there's much more to it than eating a hamburger. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot more to it than just getting your spine and nerve system aligned. Because I could make an adjustment to you, clear your pathways chiropractically, but you're going to go eat Twinkies and you're going to sit like this all day long on your phone in front of a box that's emitting blue light in a home that has no circulated air and you haven't been outside in a month. That best adjustment I ever gave you is going to be marginally improving versus getting an adjustment, going for a walk, getting some sun on your face, and eating less refined food. Perfect. Yeah. Now, are you going to be as healthy as we can be because of all those other things we talked about? Probably not. But we have to start somewhere. And like you said, baby steps. What's the one thing you can do? You know what? One of the best things I did in January was at night, 8 o'clock at night, that phone is put away. Because you'd fallen, you take it to bed, you can't get right to sleep. You're on that circle wheel of death, and it's 1 a.m. watching some great cat videos or funny stuff, but the brain doesn't rest. I put it away, and I've gotten back to reading. But every night I read 15, 20 minutes, and solid out. Like it's no disruption to sleep, and it's that little thing. It's not hard. It was easy, and it improved my life and my sleep. Crazy. So. Amazing. Trying those little things, maybe change the frequency of how you're eating, try not eating, see how your body responds. You have to try it, and guess what's going to happen? It'll be okay. If you go a day without eating, you're going to live. And you may realize, gee, that sucked. Well, why did it suck? Well, because I've not ever done that. I eat too many carbohydrates and my body's not adapted yet. Great. Now you know that. How can we get you to be that way? And then I tell people, when you get this book, don't do it all tomorrow. Because you will be sick and you will hate me and you will not follow through. Make a better choice. Have half the French fries today or have a meal without the French fries for lunch. And then you can have for dinner and you slowly get your body adaptive to it because it took you a long time to get where you're at. It's going to take you probably longer to get to where you want to be. You can't plant corn on a Monday and pick it on Tuesday. This isn't going to happen. So.
Well said, man. Well, that's great. It's a great way to conclude this conversation. And again, you did such a great job writing that book. I hope lots of people get to see it and take your wonderful advice and not try to do it all at once, but to try to take those progressive steps and see how much better they feel and make those conclusions. So I'm so grateful for you for writing the book, DocBlack. You did a great job, and I'm so grateful for you to be able to do that and to want to talk about it on our show today. You said a lot of very kind words, and it really means a lot coming from you. So thank you so very much. Let's make sure that we do this again soon, sometime, and not wait as long as we did last time. But for now, where can people go to find you and connect with you and your work, my friend?
So my main website is docblack.com, DOCBLAC.com. That goes everywhere. YourAlignedLife.com, as well as low carb chiro, but it all pretty much goes to the same spot, docblack.com. That's me. The link to my book is on that site as well. And check it out. I'd love to. I feel honored for the people who bought it already. I'm like, oh my God, people buying my book. And it's a very humbling thing when what you do to serve other people actually is recognized, and that actually you're helping people, maybe not even in front of you, but elsewhere. So it's a gift. So awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, that's awesome. I hope you're very proud of that, and it is going to help a lot of people. The way you address things and say things is really crystal clear and very simple to understand. We really just appreciate you and your amazing work and your desire to get it out there, and for taking the time to be on our show today, Dr. Black. We really, really appreciate you.
Thanks, Casey. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio. That was awesome. You're the best. You're such a good
Oh no,
guest.
I just so I mean, I get going, man, and I could just start machine gunning things, and I get
I love
all.
it. It's great. No, but it flows. Like it's not, you're not taking things like completely off course. It's just it's a nice little flow and it leads into something different. And like, you're great. You're doing an awesome job. You're a great guest.
Oh, I appreciate that. No, it's just fun, and I just, the book it's been cathartic. It's like, wow, I
Good.
wrote a book. It's fun, and
Wrote a
again,
book.
it's yeah, I know, and it just extends that message, to those people that you don't have the time to sit with every, you have a 5-10 minute encounter and be like, I'll give you the book. I can get it for $3. It's not the Amazon. It's here. Take it, read it, share it,
Cool.
ask me questions, torture me about it. Because
Love
I
it.
tell people I learn by when you question me, I need to learn how to articulate my message. And B, I may be wrong. It's okay. I might be wrong
Right.
and need to figure out what is best and how to change my pattern.
Right. Well, I mean, so yeah, I've got so many different carnivore cookbooks and things like this that are
Oh,
really good and well done. And they do such a great job. But I really mean when I say, like, there's not many people that I can share this book with. It's too much. And it's
right.
great. It's got good recipes and, really good information, very scientific and how to track things. Dude, that's not most people. Like, this is a book that I can share with people. So
And
I
I
really
love
like
the
that aspect.
content and the energy of the carnivore teacher who you had out a number of times. Loved it. I
Yeah.
bought his book hoping I would be able to take it and give it to patients. It's not a bad book, but the
Yeah.
content is great. But then I was like, it's just kind of bullet pointy. Like it was just like, ugh. I'm like,
Agree.
I grew up reading the book. One of my favorite books was called Zen in the Martial Arts, and it was all these
Okay.
little short snippets where one chapter was almost standalone. And I'm like, I want it to be like that, so somebody can
Cool.
just pick it up and not feel like they have to go through this whole thing. And then that's what I was like, I just got to do it. And then
Yeah.
that's
You
what
did a
happened.
great job. It fills that spot perfectly. So you did a great job.
Thank you, Casey. Appreciate
Dude,
that.
you're the best. Hope you had a great Christmas. Happy New Year. Hope it's a good
You
year
as
for
well.
you. Congratulations on the book. And thanks again for doing this. So awesome. Great
Oh
to
man, I
catch up with
look
you.
forward to seeing it, and we'll get together soon. You let me know whenever you want to do it again.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. You're the
Share
best.
me with your friends. I love talking to your tribe too. So,
Awesome. Yeah, will for sure.
all right, bud.
Awesome.
Thanks,
All right, my
Casey.
friend.
Yeah,
Take care. Happy New Year.
you too.